What would you think if a country like China decided to spend $5 billion buying oil field shares? It is obvious that China has ambitions when it wants to invest a significant sum of money in something. Nobody has any ideas. The US intended to sell India its 8.4% stake in the oil field, but Kazakhstan halted the transaction and acquired the shares from the US. The fact that Kazakhstan bought these shares only to sell them to China shocked everyone the most. Before we go on, subscribe to this channel to watch about the most shocking and amazing world projects. Ready? Let's begin. We will discuss the reasons behind China's decision to pay $5 billion for shares that the rest of the world deems useless in this video. We will also learn why Kazakhstan prevented a deal between the United States and India, allowing China to acquire these oil reserves. Let's get going. Oil is sought after by all nations due to its economic advantages in the energy sector. Countries with dense populations rely mostly on oil. China has a large population, which results in significant energy consumption. Despite its efforts to become carbon neutral, China currently depends on oil and natural gas. Due to its overwhelming demand, China has already been importing oil and natural gas from other nations. As a result, whenever a country has oil resources, China always wins the mining rights. Kazakhstan discovered the Caspian oil in 2000. The northernmost region of the Caspian Sea is where this field is situated. This find was regarded as the biggest oil find ever made. There are about 35 billion barrels of oil in this field. The amount of oil coming from the Caspian is thought to be up to 1.5 million barrels per day. As a result, the world became aware of this field after the discovery. Everyone wanted to invest in this industry so they could export oil and profit handsomely. The nation can obtain oil at a low cost by acquiring a portion of an oil field. As a result, it turns out to be quite advantageous for them. In addition, Kazakhstan has a large amount of natural gas resources, so obtaining mining rights is quite profitable, and no one wants to pass up the opportunity to purchase shares. As a result, when Kazakhstan invited the world to participate in this oil field, numerous strong nations also began to bid. The US, UK, and Japan are among the nations that are interested in the oil field. It's because these nations have quite high oil demands as well. China also sought to buy the stock to obtain oil. However, the concept of China acquiring these oil reserves was not well received by the Western nations. The West has consistently opposed China. There are numerous instances where the West has attempted to push China back. The West does not want China to advance because, should they do so, they will face intense competition. The similar thing also occurred in this project. The Western nations banded together and attempted to obstruct the Kazakhstan-China agreement. They offered to buy all of the available shares. China abandoned this oil field because it was powerless to prevent this. So the US made the decision to purchase a sizable portion of the Caspian oil field. The US believed that this investment would be very profitable for the nation. And now that China has been excluded from the agreement, everything is in their hands. They anticipated that oil mining would bring them a lot of money, but nothing turned out as expected. After extensive mining, the US feels awful about these oil fields. Nothing went as planned, but this raises the question of why the US failed, which would prevent them from becoming extremely wealthy. This failure has a number of causes. Cash against temperature comes first. Again, the temperature of the money fluctuates greatly. A worker working here for more than an hour can freeze due to the extreme cold of the winters. The mining speed was impacted by this. In addition, returning the oil to the appropriate nation was a major challenge. The sea storms would make the trip very challenging for an oil tanker arriving by sea. Additionally, these storms have the potential to cause an oil tanker to capsize into the water, posing serious environmental risks. Therefore, the US gave up on its intention to keep mining in this area. Instead of holding the shares for themselves, because this investment was not profitable for the US, they decided to sell 8.4 of them to India after 10 years. In this way, they will have their money returned to them. On the other hand, India had a competing interest in acquiring these oil resources. Because India, like every other country, desired to have a significant amount of oil, the nation was tremendously ecstatic when it was given control of these oil resources. India came to the conclusion that it would be in its best interest to purchase the oil reserves from the United States. They believed that once they began mining in the fields, they would be able to generate a significant amount of money. They could resume the oil drilling operations at this location. China entered the picture, however, before India could seal the deal with the United States. China expressed interest in purchasing these 8.4% shares from the US, but it was fully understood that the US will not sell these shares to China. Despite this, China expressed interest in purchasing these shares. They consequently communicated with the Kazakhstani government. They asked Kazakhstan to purchase the oil fields from the United States in order to then sell them to China. Kazakhstan is the only country that can preserve this deal for China. Surprisingly, they were able to do so before the United States and India could come to an agreement. It was decided that Kazakhstan would buy the shares back from the United States. The United States of America had no choice but to sell, and so it was. However, Kazakhstan's decision to sell these shares to China sent shockwaves throughout the international community. China made the decision to purchase these shares for a total of $5 billion. Now, the question that needs to be answered is why China chose to purchase these shares. A nation such as the United States would not be able to profit from these shares. The question then is why China believes it will benefit from it. Many nations voiced their concern that China had negotiated an unfair agreement. They were critical of China for investing so much money in these industries, pointing out that they are not even profitable. However, the fact of the matter is that China puts a lot of thought into everything it does. Let's investigate how China benefited from the purchase of these pricey shares. Nobody else could have come up with the solutions that China came up with to overcome all of the challenges that were in its path. First, they constructed a ship that was capable of traveling and working alongside her. The crew of the ship won't have to worry about their safety in really cold weather, and they won't have to travel the oil from the tankers either. The Chinese government made the decision to construct pipelines since these pipes will make it simple to move oil to China without the necessity of traveling over an ocean that is frequently racked by storms. The total distance that this pipeline will travel is 1,700 kilometers. Additionally, this pipeline has a capacity of 20 million tons per year. This enables China to transfer an unlimited quantity of oil without difficulty. China was able to successfully make $12 billion from this initiative, despite the fact that it involved a lot of risk. However, the only reason that this was possible was due to China's rapid economic development. China is the only country that has been able to turn a profit from this industry because it is the only country that has all of the answers to challenges that no other country has been able to address. Do you believe there is another country in the world that is more intelligent than China? China has demonstrated that it is significantly more developed than the United States, despite the fact that the United States believes that no one can compete with them. Do you approve of the choice made by China to purchase these shares worth $5 billion? Do you wish to view further videos that are similar to this on? Share your opinion in comments. Also, click on this video to watch about another shocking project.